Hi, this is Louie Pérez from Los Lobos, and you're watching LifeMinute TV.
The beloved East L.A. band Los Lobos has been gifting us their mix of rock, punk, soul, R&B, and Mexican folk music for more than 5 decades. We caught up with percussionist, guitarist, and vocalist Louie Pérez recently from his home in L.A. to hear all about the band's latest, Native Sons, a 13-song set they produced as a love letter to their homeland and L.A.'s music scene. This is a Life Minute with Los Lobos' Louie Pérez.
The new record, the concept first was the first thing that came up. The whole idea of doing a covers record. Then we said, wow, that's vast. How do we come up with what song? Being a band and being around music for, well over 50 years now. So all that information up in our heads, we had to come up with something that we can narrow it down to. And we said, well, why don't we make this a tribute to Los Angeles?
And with so many great bands to cover, coming up with the list for this one wasn't easy.
We started picking personal favorites, Conrad's favorite, Steve, David, myself, Caesar. And you can't have a record about LA without a song by War. You can't have a record about LA without a tribute to where we come from. So we have the Midniters. We were trailblazers in the 60s, the East LA sound. And of course, then we had Jackson Browne, and then we had Buffalo Springfield that drove by one day and managed to create a lot of great music in LA. And oh God, Lalo Guerrero, who was like the original Chicano, going way back to the 30s and 40s. So I think we came up with a pretty sizable amount of songs and I think a really nice tribute to Los Angeles.
A band since the early 70s, how do they all get along? That's an easy one, he says.
When you really come down to it, what keeps us together is the fact that we were friends before we were a band together. We all grew up in the neighborhoods in East Los Angeles. We all were friends before anything else. So we came together as friends with our mutual interest in music and started this band in 1973. And it was to play traditional Mexican music, which is really unusual for young teenagers to be interested in music that usually connected to our parents. But we got fascinated by the musicality and the technical part of it and just the beauty of the music. And we left rock and roll, which was unheard of, and played traditional Mexican music exclusively for about almost 10 years. And then eventually we made our way back to rock and roll in the late 70s. We crossed the river over to LA to play rock and roll in a lot of these clubs, and that's when we got discovered. Then the first record came out in 1983. 1984, we did How Will We Survive, which was on the critics' polls all over the country, and we got voted Band of the Year, tied with the E Street Band and Bruce Springsteen. Quite an accomplishment for a bunch of kids from East Los Angeles. And earlier than that, we had just won a Grammy. First time for a Mexican-American band to win a Grammy, and it was quite an accomplishment. But all for us, we were just moving forward and just kept working really hard, and all the other stuff was just bonuses. And 50 years, almost 50 years, I can't get ahead of myself. 48 years into it, we're still together.
A favorite guitarist to so many. Who does Perez deem as his favorites?
Ooh, that's almost like asking somebody what your favorite book is. So one of my favorite guitar players. Okay. Well, I have to go into my own personal history. Jimi Hendrix was the first live band I ever saw when I was 14 years old. And Jimi Hendrix rearranged every brain cell in my body. And to this day, I'll always go back to that experience. And so Jimi Hendrix has always been my favorite guitar player, but there's so many. There's George Benson, Larry Coryell, John McLaughlin, Wes Montgomery. There's just so many guitar players. Eric Clapton and Jeff Beck and all of those classic guitar players. Not to mention, I'm not even going to get started with all like your Derek Trucks and all those amazing guitar players that are out today.
And if you haven't seen Los Lobos play live, you are surely missing out.
There are many different facets to Los Lobos. There's the traditional Mexican music, obviously a rock and roll part of what we do. We can do a whole show doing that, and any combination of it. So when we go on the road, we do a little of everything. we do a show that actually combines the traditional music played on traditional instruments with the contemporary rock side. But for the most part, it's covering all of the territory that we've done in, I don't know how many records we have by now. And also playing covers. We've always played covers, so that's why this Native Sons came natural to us. Right now, we're not taking it easy. We're touring intensively because we have a record to promote. We have these package tours that we just finished doing. Most of them we started doing we're on the road with Emmylou Harris for about a week. Went out with Steve Earle for another week or so, the Mavericks, and it's been fun getting together with old friends. And then we've had just so many makeup shows to do for a lot of shows in 2020 that people just hung on to their tickets, and so we're doing a lot of makeup shows. So it's a lot of work right now, going all the way through the end of the year, and then after the first of the year, we're going to take a look at how we're going to pace ourselves. We're going to take drives by the ocean. And I think as you get older, you appreciate more sunsets and ice cream.
When we asked Louie if there was anything he wanted to tell us, this is what he said.
How grateful I am to be doing what I'm doing. I mean, I've just been the most fortunate kid on the block. Growing up from where I grew up, it's incredible that I've been able to do a number of things, not only play music, but also help to redefine stereotypes of Mexican-American people, bring the songs of my heritage, and not to mention songs that I've wrote to the world. It's been a great time for me, and I cherish every moment of it, and I'm grateful every minute.
For tour dates, check out loslobos.org. And to hear more of this interview, visit our podcast, LifeMinute TV, on iTunes and all streaming podcast platforms.